challenge for us. Everybody's got to do their job.
Okay, thanks.
All right, next question is going to be from Greg Allman.
Hey, Todd, we had Devin White on the other day, and he was telling us that his request to you was to unleash him on Sunday. I wanted to ask you, with a quarterback like Rodgers, who can be so good at recognizing blitzes, at kind of throwing into the holes that are created by those, how next level does the disguise and deception aspect of your defense have to be to work against a guy like him?
I mean, it really doesn't get next level. When you've played as long as he has, you've probably seen everything. So from our standpoint, we just got to be fundamentally sound, and we're going to have to win our matchups and win our battles. That's what it's going to come down to. We're going to try and make more plays than they make.
Your defensive line obviously changes things without Vita Vea there, but it seems like the coaches, teammates have had a lot of confidence in Raheem Nunez-Roches in terms of what he can do to step in, maybe not be the exact same player that Vita is, but to try and do the same thing for you guys in the middle there.
Well, we just want him to be himself. And, you're not going to replace Vita with another guy. We want Nacho to be Nacho, and he's played a lot over the past couple of weeks for us. He plays all the time. It's just a matter of him changing his role and playing more. We have all the confidence in the world in him, and we're just going to play our game.
Next, we're going to go with Kevin O'Donnell.
Hey, Todd. Devin was talking this week about, everyone's kind of pointing to how are you going to stop Aaron Rodgers? And he says you got to kind of go into the mindset of this game is what are they going to do to stop our defense? Is that the kind of the attitude that this defense needs to have in kind of big matchups like this?
Our attitude is the same every week. We have to play our game. We're more worried about what we do and things we can do to win as opposed to worry about the opposition. You have to worry about the opposition and then yourself. That's two birds with one stone. So we try to concentrate on us. We know every week we're going to face a good opponent, in this case, a great opponent. So it's a big challenge for us, but we just got to tighten down our screws and we got to play our game.
Thank you.
All right, next we'll go over to Ed Encina.
Hi, Todd. We've seen, Carlton, I think, and Jordan miss a little bit of practice past couple of days. How important is, in that secondary, you have a lot of guys who can kind of, mix and match certain roles there. But how important is that? Obviously injuries are part of the game here, but did you have some guys there that you can kind of lean on in certain spots if, guys can't go?
That's why we cross-train in training camp, and Bruce says always next man up for us, as Coach Aaron's always says. So there are some guys that may have to play and step in if those guys aren't ready, and we're more than confident with those guys stepping up and playing.
And the Packers, we talk about Rodgers a lot. I mean, his primary weapon usually is Devontae Adams, and as a guy that, in week one, they targeted 17 times. I mean, you face a lot of receivers when you talk about guys like Michael Thomas. It's not necessarily about taking them away, but just trying to figure out how to, limit them. Is that the situation with a guy like Adams?
Well, it's tough because Adams is a great receiver, no doubt about it, but Rodgers throws to everybody. They got about 3 or 4 tight ends. The running backs catch the ball out of the backfield. All the other receivers are playing good ball, and he spreads the ball around to whoever's open. And Devontae coming back is a big lift for them, I'm sure, but he spreads the ball around pretty good, and those other guys are playing very well. So we got to cover everybody, and we got to win our matchups,
Now we'll go over to John Ledyard.
Todd, curious about the Packers and their usage of jet motion this season, one of the most heavy teams to use jet motion, and just curious about what that does to a defense. How does that put stress on your guys, and how can you best prepare them to be able to handle that schematic tendency on Sunday?
I mean, anytime you get jet motion, it makes your eyes wander a little bit, and they do a lot of it, but we've seen it the past couple of weeks. It has nothing to do with the game plan. They can do either. They can motion a lot or they can motion a little. They still execute at a high level. So we got to play our game and not too much, put too much in the jet motion or anything other thing we see, and just read our keys and play football.
Another unique thing the Packers like to do is get their running backs kind of vertical out of the backfield that not a lot of teams do, but they'll get their guys down the field. You did see, I guess, a little bit of that with Chicago and some wheels out of the backfield. Did that prepare you well to be able to kind of counter what some of Green Bay does offensively with their running backs?
I mean, they catch the ball very well and they run like receivers, so that creates a problem, and all of them can do it. They got a bunch of guys that can do that role, and they got a bunch of guys that can run the ball, so they're dual threats, every one of them that come in the ball game. again, they got a lot of weapons, and they make you pick and choose, and you pick and choose your poison with them.
And we'll go back to Greg Allman.
Todd, I just wanted to ask you about Ross Cockrell, who you guys brought in during the season and brought up from the practice squad. Just what he's shown you and how comfortable you'd be if you had to have him on the field as a corner.
Very intelligent player. He can play inside and outside. He's very smart. He understands leverage and technique. He's played in the league for a little while. He can do a lot of things for us, and if we have to play him, we'll be very comfortable playing him.
Thanks, Todd.
Yeah.
Over to Rick Stroud.
Rodgers is so good, obviously, with the hard counts and things like that. There'll be some people in Raymond James this week, but without the crowd noise, does it, in a weird way, when he's on the road, does that play into his hands a little bit? You guys got to be extra cautious not to listen to his cadence as much.
I mean, he's great with a crowd or without a crowd. He's probably one of the best hard count guys in the league right now, and you see it every week on film. And no matter how much you practice it, you got to be disciplined at it. So I don't think the crowd factor is going to have anything to do with it.
Now we'll go over to Leo Haggerty.
Coach, I talked with Matt LaFleur yesterday, and he said even though your secondary was young, he was impressed with their length. How important is that to play in the secondary now in the NFL?
I mean, it's great to have some size height-wise because the receivers are taller. They're 6'3", 6'4", 6'5", and, the 5'8", 5'9" corners have trouble down the field a little bit, so having a little bit of length is good. But, we still got to play technique and everything else to try to make some plays.
All right, that's all for today. Thanks, Coach. Appreciate your
Thanks.
time.
Yeah.